We're back! Fendi, like the bag. This is the I Refuse podcast. Atlanta is back, and I couldn't be more excited. Can we get into the two references in the first episode? And two parallels or pieces of symbolism in the second episode. Hey everybody, it's Mr. Fox of the I Refuse podcast. I am on my second week of the Omarion tour, and at this point, I have an icebox where my heart used to be. I'm not 100% better. My energy is not back. My congestion's still there. And I have a cough that is so ugly. So excuse me if I happen to do that during this episode. That explains the sabbatical, and also I've been doing a lot on the streaming side of things. Be sure to check that out on the 8 streaming platforms. I just got done watching the two debut episodes of the return season, the third season of Atlanta. And wow, I was not able to catch it last night due to routine, got caught up in routine. Just haven't been back with it since, cabin fever is a cycle. But that first episode, I was like, hold on. I know they are not referencing first in the opening sequence the Lake Lanier situation and the 1912 racial conflict that it stems from. So for a lot of y'all that don't know, Lake Lanier is rumored, it could be an urban legend, it could very well be true, allegedly, to be a lake that flooded a town called Oscarville, and that with that, a lot of people that live there or used to live there are indeed ghosts that haunt the lake. Also, on top of that, in the last couple of years, there have been some suspicious deaths or suspicious missing cases, circumstances around people in that part of Georgia or in Georgia that have mysteriously went missing. And it's rumored that they too are in Lake Lanier. So the part in the opening sequence where the guy mentions the dam that the government built and outrightly implies that it was intentionally broken to flood the town. I was like, that's a part I don't recall, but reading up on history as far as racial relations in this country and the government or the police, it wouldn't surprise me. It's a long-standing historical fact at this point that we be out here minding our business, and the whites want to just clear us out. You think of Oscarville, you think of Rosewood, you think of the random bombing in one of the Philadelphia neighborhoods in the 80s, probably the late 70s. We just out here minding our business, trying to be upperly mobile, and y'all just want to be messing with us. The reason why I mentioned Rosewood and Oscarville is because the racial conflict in 1912 stems from the false accusation that two black men had raped one or more white women. which turned out to be false. That also tend to be the tipping point in the Rosewood situation. For those of you that are not familiar with Rosewood, the film by John Singleton, watch it. A couple of parallels there. So in 1912, that thing started going, and at some point, they held one or both of the men. One of the pastors or preachers at that time, a black pastor or preacher, went down to where the men were being held and started like a peaceful confrontation. Tempers flared. They beat the pastor down, held him in the building to protect him from the mob. But it ultimately led to Oscarville being allegedly abandoned. Too much violence, too much targeting of people of color and black people, and the town was abandoned. So it's interesting in that opening sequence that there was mention of a dam in the government, which leads me to think that that town was intentionally flooded so black people couldn't come back or wouldn't come back. And I'm led to believe that maybe there's a huge section of history that does not include that piece of information. So that's the opening sequence of the first episode. There's going to be a lot more spoilers because we're reviewing the first two episodes. Your asses should have been watching it. If I had time to watch it and review it the day after, y'all had time. So probably like a couple of minutes into the rest of the episode, the first episode, I was like, wait a minute. This is interesting. The black boy, there are two or more mean references in the school portion, the school scene, where he gets up and dances on the table, where his grandfather slaps him a couple of times. I was like, I see what they're doing here. At this point, I'm not entirely sure how the first episode ties into the rest of the season, but I'm still going to watch. So, in the hallway, after, his mom and his grandfather come up to the school, have a conversation, I guess, with the principal and the guidance counselor. And the guidance counselor suggests putting the son into remedial classes, which, we hate that shit because of what it implies. So naturally the parent gets defensive. I saw so much of my situation or parts of my childhood in that situation, as far as in an all-white faculty, body, school, when you are a minority, especially a black kid, and you're disruptive, and that's just an umbrella term. You talk too much, you won't sit still, you're passing messages, you're distracting the teacher. In the 80s and the 90s, the go-to was sticking black kids into remedial classes, holding them back a couple of grades, or putting them in a special class. And at some point, you end up in this alternate environment with other kids that are not remedial or slow or backwards in any way. They're just children that the teachers don't want to deal with. And they could be violent, or in my case, non-violent. But that's always been a running case in the school system, speaking from personal experience. So I saw that scene in the guidance counselor in the principal's office. and my experience with parent-teacher conferences, my mom being called up to the school, not looking the happiest, but that situation in of itself exacerbates just a trivial situation. Like, I can shut up and be quiet. Not a big deal, but do I need 8 or 9 people at the table? It's so dramatic. So there were a couple of gems that his mom's character, in the first episode that dropped, that I was like, you know what? That may have been a little bit harsh, but she was right on point when she was like, you want to act a fool, and you pretty much want to give these white people a reason to make an example out of you. By cutting up, acting up, standing out in a negative way, you either are going to end up in jail or they're going to kill you. And my experience from what I gleaned from that is that it's like, no matter how popular you may be, no matter how creative you are, no matter how funny you are, you're still just another target in this world because you're black. And she's telling him this as she's telling him to do all the popular dances in the hallway to make a point that it's ultimately not going to matter either way. If people want to give you a problem, and they will because they can, and nobody's going to check them, that's going to ultimately result in several situations. And at this point, we've seen a lot of them when it comes to black people, black children, black men, black women. So this is going down in the hallway of the school where the mother is forcing him to do dances and the grandfather has slapped him a few times as the guidance counselor is looking from behind them. So, of course, having witnessed that, she is under the impression that the child is in danger. The school calls Child Protective Services. The agent comes to the house with a couple of the police officers. Again, being an 80s and 90s kid, that was pretty common. That didn't happen to me, but the implication is all it takes for shit to get blown out of proportion. And this is another example of that. So, they say it was a courtesy call or just a welfare check. And they never made it into the house. The mother was like, well, I mean, since you want them, go ahead and take them. His mother was under the impression that he called, but it was actually the school. But I get where she was coming from. Being a single black woman, a parent, and imagine all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into raising your child, and you're working within a system that is ultimately against you, and it's like no matter how hard you work, how well you do right by your children, and how well you mean, it doesn't take much. And I think she was sending him out to prove a greater point that she was making in the hallway of the school. Um, so she sends him, essentially pushes him out the door with the agent. I was like, okay, I don't know where this is going, but I love Atlanta. So when he showed up to the white people's house with the agent, I saw the first woman. I was like, okay, she's a little hippy dippy, little, all is well, peace, all is fair in love and war, yada yada yada. And she introduces the boy to the rest of the black kids that she adopted. I was like, wait a minute. My gears were turning. I was like, what? And, I looked at the house and I was like, wait a minute. I think I know this from somewhere. And, they had all the kids doing all the physically demanding work, the gardening, painting the house and painting the doors and just like hard labor kind of stuff, while eating chicken that wasn't done and kiwi and avocado and just carrots and stuff for lunch. I'm like, this sounds really familiar to me. So it clicked for me by the time the social worker came by. Oh, this is in reference or inspired by the Hart murder-suicide. So back in 2018 or 2016, I believe, it made the news everywhere. There was a lesbian couple that adopted, I believe, 5 or 6 kids, right? There were allegations and complaints lodged against the 2 parents for the mistreatment and abuse of the 5 or 6 adopted black kids that were in their house and under their care. From bruises to calls and complaints that they were keeping the kids in cages, that they were not feeding them well, and they were making them do all kinds of physically demanding stuff that you normally wouldn't make grade school children do around the house. At some point after that last visit, they packed the kids up into a Yukon and drove off a cliff in California, killing everybody in the van. But they weren't able to locate the body of Devontae. But the judge in 2019, I believe, ruled him dead. And just like in the episode, I believe the black kid that was sent to the house was the Devontae character. At some point, he jumps out the back of the van in the episode before it drives off the cliff, and he goes back to his mom's house, his biological mother's house, does dishes, eats some of the leftover spaghetti that was referenced earlier. And as he's watching the news, he sees that the rest of the adopted kids were found. Which implies that while the parents were pulled over in the episode to let the dog free, that he had managed to not only switch places from the behind the seats to the carriage or the hatchback of the van, but he also had freed the rest of the kids. that was something. So I was like, okay, Atlanta is starting off pretty strong in their return. And along the way, dropping a lot of relatable stuff to my personal experience and probably the personal experience of some of y'all out there as to racial relations within the school system, with the expectations that parents have of kids by way of pressures that society puts on parents, especially black parents, black moms that are single, trying to raise black boys into civilized black men, and still that not being good enough. Um, Stressing the importance of being self sufficient, staying within the lines, not causing too much trouble, because we're under the impression that that ultimately equals death or jail time. That first episode gave me a whole lot. And I pick up on a lot of deeper shit by watching, Atlanta, by watching Jordan Peele's movies. And Childish Gambino, man, Donald Glover, I almost called him Danny Glover, bitch. Got it going on. It was well worth the wait. It's been at least 2 years since season 2. And season 2 is my favorite season so far. So, moving right along. Episode 2. Whew, I don't even know where to start. I guess we'll start from the beginning. So, they're in your spread out the four main characters. Paperboy has a show, I believe in Amsterdam, but he's in jail. Earn is late for a flight to the city where the venue is. Gets to the venue, manages to get $20K out of the promoter prior to the show. Uses some of that money to get Paperboy out of jail, which was a very accommodating, friendly jail. And I was a little confused at first, but I was like, at the end of season 2, I don't recall Paperboy getting into trouble, but we'll ride it out. The other two characters, Van and I can't remember Lakeith's character's name, are on their way to, I think, what's supposed to be some kind of shoot or something. Kind of was in and out a little bit at that point. So, at some point, we figure out how Florida Paperboy ended up in jail. When they get back to his hotel room, I was like, oh. And mind you, they're in a country that, like, there are a lot of people, a lot of the natives in blackface. And they're being told that there's like a long-standing tradition. Earn had asked the cab driver, he's like, why is that baby in blackface, on the back of a bike with a Santa Claus looking guy? And the driver tells them that, oh, well, it's a tradition and, You know, he got that way by falling down a chimney. Brother, what's absolutely the fuck not. So Paperboy ended up in jail because um, two of the girls that he brought back to his hotel room, one was mixed or biracial, and the other one was white. Both natives of the country because they spoke the language. And in that scene, I was like, this is very much giving me Notorious B.I.G. vibes. I don't know why, but Big Papa, 1995, Notorious B.I.G. vibes. Because all I can see as he is in bed with these two girls is that scene in the Big Papa video where he's like, Biggie's at the bar or Biggie's in the VIP section and he has girls around him. So anyway, the white girl kept saying in a strong accent the N-word followed by a bitch. She just kept saying it. And the other girl, who is mixed, was bothered by that, as she should have been. So they start bickering back and forth, and the mixed girl slapped her, and they fought off camera and made a mess of the hotel room. I was like, okay. So, you know, there was a lot going on. So the rest of the episode, there is Van and Paperboy's Paperboy's friend, Lakeith's character. They take the airport van, to this house, and they pick up a group of native white people, all dressed in like white. And I was like, this is very much giving me Heaven's Gate, David Koresh vibes. I don't know what's going on. So they take the van over to this house, and everybody in the house is dressed in white, and they're chanting. Girl, that was at a Mario and touching me. So in this house that they go to, is all these people dressed in these white cloths, and they have like baby's breath and rosary and all this kind of shit. And they're humming and they're chanting. And across the room, there is this person laying there. Can't see his face, but he has tattoos on his arms. And he's laying under a cloth. And Van and the other guy that's part of the cast are having a conversation, and the guy made mention of Tupac. Oh, Tupac's, they've been long saying that he's not actually dead, that he went to the Bahamas, disappeared or whatever, which gives me the impression he's implying that that's actually Tupac on the bed. So at some point, the house full of people make their way around this guy that's laying in the bed. And above his head is some kind of latex, I want to say it's like a white latex sheath that's like draped over this mechanism that keeps it hanging. And the woman that Van was speaking to earlier is presiding, I guess, over this body, and she's chanting and she's saying some stuff. And before you know it, the sheath drops and suffocates this man to death. And I looked at the part of the face that was showing, and I was like, is that supposed to be Tupac? What's going on here? As the man's suffocating, I'm looking around, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, is there a Biggie and Tupac thing, symbolism, metaphor, whatever, in this episode they're trying to give us? Because I definitely felt that. So the rest of the episode goes, Earn goes to the venue, meets with the promoter, and lets him know that, Paperboy's not going to be able to make it. He's under the weather. And the promoter visibly looks upset and says over and over, "You trying to fuck me?" Now listen, I done watched a couple of Mission Impossible movies when they're international. I've watched a couple of espionage movies, Jason Bourne, Jack Reacher, all kinds of stuff. And that phrase is not new to me. And I was sitting there like, okay, is this guy about to break into some kind of karate? Because he's standing there on the scaffolding or whatever you want to call it. And he looks pissed, but he's not doing anything. He's just standing there, just doing this with his hands at his sides. I'm like, what? So, as the guy's standing there, Earn manages to just kind of back out, physically walk backwards towards the door, because he doesn't know what this guy's going to do. And he just is like, okay, I'm out. So the promoter chases after him. Mind you, this citywide event with the blackface and the afros is still happening. And he never catches up to him, but he punches the first guy he sees. And I was like, I see what they did there. I'm thinking we all look alike. So Earn gets Paperboy and himself out of that situation, able to get Paperboy out of jail, and on their way they go. So, I don't know, again, what's going to happen this season, but I'm all the way here for it. Atlanta got it going on. Thursdays on FX. I watched on Hulu. Be sure to catch that. The show on there. Abbott Elementary is back. That last episode was pretty good. Great to see William Dent from Girlfriends back on TV. A lot of people were speculating, asking what was going on with him, because he looks different, and he did gain a lot of weight, but he looks different in the face. And it's crazy because, well, not all too surprising, that people were trying to play the guy, the weight and the face, and he's not looking too good. First of all, it's alleged that he has a heart condition. Secondly, he, Girlfriends was probably his one only major role. Hopefully the resurgence, bringing the show on Netflix, gives him And, the rest of the cast, residual money and stuff like that. Because Girlfriends is iconic, but we're not going to sit up here on Tracy Ellis Ross's internet and play with William Dent. We're not going to do it. The 10th episode of Abbott Elementary was really good. I see that they're starting to get serious. We already know that the second season is coming soon. And it looks like Ava is on the block to be fired from her principal job. I adore the cast. Cheryl Lee Ralph, love her. We're not going to play in her face either. I know that she recently came out and made mention of when she was auditioning for a show or a movie, and I think it was the casting agent or the producer or something was playing in her face, saying, not being familiar with who she was at that point, and saying outrightly to her that people can't picture you kissing or making out with Tom Cruise. Ma'am or sir, don't do that. And but the takeaway from that conversation was that, people that are well known in Black Hollywood and Black circles and Black households are not necessarily known all over. And it's unfortunate because here you have a great example, Shirley Ralph, Dreams Girls, Good Times, Sister Act 2, Moesha, let's see, Abbott Elementary. She's been around working a good 5 decades, and she still looks good. And she is doing wonderful in Abbott Elementary, but I wanted to put that in this episode, another takeaway of the kind of conversations that we should be having. From Abbott Elementary, I like the great character that Tyler James Williams from Everybody Hates Chris plays, and the gay white redhead character. I love the both of them and their dynamic. Just about everybody that's on that show, every character I've seen or experienced in a school environment or just a work environment. And I love Abbott Elementary. Shout out to Quinta Brunson doing the damn thing. I was happy to see the show is back and it's getting a second season. It would suck if they lose Ava. I don't know where that's going to go. But that was funny as hell at the end of the episode where she, through a turntable, was playing I'm Going Down on Mary J. Blige while putting her shades on. I was in there singing with her. So yeah, William Dent came in for a brief 5 minutes, turned the tables, and was Ghost with his wife. I don't know if that's the season finale or what, but I'm all the way here for it. So, Our Views Podcast is back. We're still standing on YouTube. And that's where it's at. Do another episode about the Supreme Court hearings of Honorable Ketanji Jackson Brown. A lot to say about that. So, till then, stay hydrated, mind your business, get your money, keep your eyes on your own paper. And we'll see you guys later.